Hello, and welcome to our 2-week-long East Coast road trip from Charleston, South Carolina to New York City and back. We're going to explore Atlas Obscura, restaurants, museums, cemeteries, and so much more. See it all here for yourself on Snout in the Middle. We skipped the roadside attractions in South Carolina and drove the 4 hours towards our first stop in Wilmington, North Carolina, the Museum of the Bizarre. They're the only curiosities museum in the entire state of North Carolina. Admission is only $3 per person, and they're filled from floor to ceiling with cool horror movie props, swamp boogers, and supposed cursed items. For just a few more dollars, you can enter their laser vault and mirror maze. It's fun for the whole family and an affordable and unique way to spend an afternoon. After a quick coffee break, we decided to all stretch our legs at the North Carolina Museum of Art in Raleigh, North Carolina. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to go inside, but the surrounding grounds are absolutely beautiful and lined with art installations, all free to enjoy. We had originally stopped here to see the cloud chamber for the trees and sky, but the trail was closed that day. Just a 25-minute drive away from the Museum of Art is the Free Expression Tunnel, also in Raleigh, North Carolina. It is the longest, widest, and most heavily used pedestrian tunnel under the railroad tracks at North Carolina State University. The tunnel's leading draw is that anyone is permitted to decorate anywhere they'd like, and they have. The walls, floors, ceiling, and even railings are all covered in graffiti, event promotions, obscenity, and art alike. We finished our first night on the road with these vanilla skies in Richmond, Virginia, where we stayed at this quaint and affordable dog-friendly Airbnb. It was the perfect place to rest up before the next day's adventure. The next morning, we explored Richmond, stopping first at the Markle Building. Can you tell this building was inspired by a baked potato? And just 10 minutes up the road, in front of the Children's Museum of Richmond, is the Grand Kugel, a perfectly balanced, polished stone that rotates 360 degrees on a thin film of water. Our next stop that morning was to the Poe Museum, also in Richmond, Virginia. While Edgar Allan Poe never lived in the building, it served to commemorate his time living in Richmond. The museum holds one of the largest collections of original manuscripts, letters, first editions, memorabilia, and personal belongings. The museum also offered a lot of information and theories behind the poet's very mysterious death. Just an hour and a half north of Richmond is Fredericksburg, Virginia, and our reason for stopping, Chatham Manor. The history of Chatham Manor goes back to the late 1700s and served as a slave plantation, a place to house the U.S. Army, and a headquarters during the Battle of Fredericksburg. After the battle, Chatham's stately rooms were transformed into a field hospital. The famous poet Walt Whitman served in the hospital, caring for sick and wounded soldiers, and it is said that he was inspired by these catalpa trees on Chatham's grounds. Chatham Manor has stood alongside the banks of Fredericksburg for 250 years. The gardens, which are beautiful and historic on their own, are free for all to explore, which was all we had time for. But the Manor and Visitor Center are open daily and offer more of a history on Chatham and Elwood Manor. Just 90 minutes north of Fredericksburg was our new stop for the next few days, Washington, D.C. We stayed at the dog-friendly hotel Yours Truly DC, and we can confirm that it was a great stay, and that this one was a big fan of the king-size bed. We had dinner and drinks at Founding Fathers before walking to my number one destination in DC, the famous stairs from the 1973 horror movie, The Exorcist. The next morning, we went for the full DC walking experience. While neither Nick nor myself are big U.S. history buffs, we thought that seeing the major DC buildings and monuments still felt like the quintessential thing to do. The next day's adventure took us on another long walk, first past the White House. Next, we were on to the United States Botanic Garden, located on the grounds of the United States Capitol. The conservatory is divided into several separate rooms, each simulating a different habitat. The jungle species, as seen here, is the largest of the rooms and includes the second-story catwalk so that the canopy can be observed from above and below. My favorite fun fact about the United States Botanic Garden is that it participates in the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, or CITES, which basically means that it cares for plants seized by customs. They specialize in orchids and succulents, my favorites. Thank you for watching part 1 of our East Coast road trip series from Charleston to New York City and back. Stay tuned for our next video that takes you through our time in Baltimore and Philadelphia. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Snout in the Middle. We're just getting started.